Hello there, my lovelies. How's it going? Welcome back to my channel, Boom Boom Reactions. Now, today, guys, we're going to be watching another Fat Electrician video. So, this one has been requested through Buy Me a Coffee from Lopez. Thank you very much for your support, my lovely. Now, Lopez says, hi, it would be awesome if you could react to the Fighting Preacher video by the Fat Electrician. Absolutely. This rings a bell. Is there a film called The Fighting Preacher, or is it a TV series? Where have I heard it before? Is this who the film is based on? Is it the same person? I've not got a clue. It just rings some bells. I think I've heard it before. Anyway, this is quite a long video, guys, so I'm going to attempt to keep my intro as short as possible. Well, you know, short for me. So let's just jump straight into the video. Again, it's another historical figure that I've not heard of before. So I'm sure Nick will tell me all about this wonderful individual and all of their feats that they have done for us. And as ever, guys, if you are enjoying these reactions, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you so much, my lovelies. And if you are interested, I have a Buy Me a Coffee account. That link is over here.
The fact that this guy doesn't even have a Wikipedia page about him is absolutely criminal.
Oh?
Today we're talking about Logan Weston, aka the Fighting Preacher, which is one of the greatest military nicknames of all time. And boy oh boy did he earn it, because wait till you hear this guy's rap sheet. Years in service, 27. Wars fought in, 3. Founding member of Merrill's Marauders, or as we know it today, the 75th Ranger Regiment. Credited with knocking out multiple enemy tanks by himself at the same time. Helped lead the last bayonet charge in US military history. Became a Green Beret in his 40s so that he could advise on how to combat communism in Vietnam.
Of course.
And this is normally the part of the video where I would list off all of his awards and citations, but seeing as he has over 200 of them, we're just gonna hit Distinguished Service Cross, 5 Silver Stars, 7 Bronze Stars with V device, and 6 Purple Hearts.
How have I not heard of this person, of Logan Weston? Again, is this the character that the film or the TV series? I'm not sure which one it is. Is it based on Logan Weston, or I don't know? How have I not heard? It's absolutely crazy to me that, you know, as someone who enjoys history, and I always have as well, it's crazy to me that, you know, history leaves out these notable characters and these amazing things that they've done, especially in, you know, more recent history. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Oh, is that all?
And we're gonna get to how he got all that.
I know I can't show the advert, but I think are they his sons? They're absolutely adorable.
Our story begins on January 5th, 1914, when Logan Weston is born. He is the oldest of 5 kids, and like pretty much everybody else from this era, his childhood kind of sucked. Family's dirt poor, like log cabin in the woods with no plumbing or power, dirt poor. He bounced around a lot between Michigan and Pennsylvania, and he only got an 8th grade education before going and getting manual labor jobs to support himself and his family. During the Great Depression, Logan's hunting buddy, basically his best friend who has a wife and kids, isn't able to find work, and he's not able to support his family, so Logan, wanting to help him out, goes to the superintendent at this coal mine and is like, hey, can we hire this guy? And he's like, no, we're struggling to keep you guys employed right now. So Logan basically quits his job and gives it to his friend so that he can support his wife and kids. Takes him a while, but eventually he finds a job as a lumberjack, and shortly after that, the coal mine that he used to work in collapses and a bunch of people die, a lot of his friends, thankfully not his best friend that was his hunting buddy. Because of that, the mine ends up getting shut down, and his friend is now out of a job again, so Logan does the same thing. He goes to his lumberjack boss and is like, hey, I'll quit, give this guy my job. He then goes, finds a job as an appliance repair guy, and then a couple months after that, there's a logging accident, and a bunch of more of his friends die from the same crew that he was working with.
Accident. We've had the coal mines, and now a logging accident.
This really starts to eat at him. He feels like death is following him everywhere he goes. A bunch of his friends have died. He's super depressed about it, and one day he gets home from work at his appliance repair job and decides that he's going to get a gun out of his dresser and put it to his head.
No, Logan, that's never the answer. It's just trauma after trauma for him.
He slowly squeezes the trigger as the hammer's pulling back, pulling back, pulling back. And then he says that he hears a voice saying, wait, and he goes to let off the trigger. But before his brain can send that signal, the hammer drops and the gun should have fired, but it doesn't. Not believing what just happened, he thanks God for a second chance, walks outside of his house, and then shoots a tree with the exact same gun, and the gun goes off perfectly fine.
What? That's eerie. Does he need another sign? I mean, come on.
And Logan interprets this as God having other plans for him, and it just completely shifts his perspective. Previously, he was thinking that death was following him everywhere he goes, and now he feels like he was being protected. God saved him from that mining incident just in time. He saved him from the logging incident, and now he just saved him from himself. Because of this, Logan decides that he's going to give his life to God. At the age of 25 years old, he decides that he's going to go off to Bible college to become a pastor. And that's what he does. He is just reading his Bible and studying in college constantly, and then his junior year of college, the draft starts for World War II in 1940. And at this point, at least, there's no exceptions for going to Bible college as getting you out of the draft, so he has to go, so he does the only thing he can do. He goes, he proposes to his girlfriend, gets engaged, and then sets off for the Army. Winds up at Camp Shelby, Mississippi for basic training, and when he first gets there, like just stepped off the bus to the base, they're in a big open field. There's a guy yelling that basically talking to hundreds of these kids that don't know what's going on, and he's like, okay, look, if you want to be infantry, go over there. You want to be artillery, go over there. You want to be a medic, go over there. You want to be this, go over there, yada, yada, yada. And he's looking around. He doesn't know what any of these words mean. He doesn't know what infantry is. He doesn't know what artillery is. This is 1940. There's no TV show. You can't Google this beforehand. You're not getting to pick a job. So he's like, I don't know what to pick. So for some reason, he picks infantry, thinking that sounds easy. Infants don't do a lot. I could probably do whatever the infantry does.
No, he did not think that, did he? I'm not educated in army war terminology. I try and keep up as best as I can, but even I know that is not what that means.
Maybe a situation here in which a serious mistake was made.
From here, he goes to basic training, then he goes to infantry school, then he's just stationed at Camp Shelby, and the entire time he's also functioning as like a pseudo chaplain. Again, you gotta remember, he's like 27 years old at this point. A lot of the other people coming up are young 18-year-old kids. There's a huge deficit or like lack of religious services available because of how quickly the US military is growing. So he's leading prayer groups, he's, you know, consulting and talking to guys that are having personal problems, much like a chaplain does. And then December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor gets attacked, and then within a matter of hours, he is ordered to move out, and he is somewhere along the Mississippi River at a choke point, basically pulling security on the Mississippi River in case the Japanese invade. You gotta remember, this is Pearl Harbor. It's complete chaos. Nobody knows what's gonna happen. There could be a land invasion at any minute. People have no idea. So he was just mobilized somewhere that the Japanese might show up on.
A lot of unknowns going on at that point in time. Just a quick question. As someone, you know, in this kind of training when he was in college, training to be a pastor, or, you know, could he not have refused conscription based on pacifist religious reasons? Is that not a thing, or can you refuse it for those reasons? And not that he would want to, but, you know, just
in the Mississippi River. And again, I presume because of the chaos in the days following Pearl Harbor, nobody knows what's going on, everybody's scrambling, he winds up camping along the Mississippi River with all of his guys for like a month. Like, he was mobilized within hours of Pearl Harbor being attacked, and then just stood out there and made sure the Japanese didn't show up at a river for a month straight. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you, I'm pretty sure they forgot they sent him there, okay? Anyways, regardless, by the second week of January, he finally gets orders to head back to Camp Shelby, so he packs up all of his stuff, heads back to Camp Shelby, and when he gets there, he is immediately promoted to sergeant. And again, this is obviously because of Pearl Harbor. We're going to war, we're gonna need millions of new troops, millions of new draftees, millions of new volunteers. Pretty much anybody with any military experience at that moment was gonna get put in a leadership position, so they were promoting everybody. He then gets pulled into his CO's office, and CO Theo tells him that he thinks that Logan would be a good fit for officer candidate school. Logan says he's interested. He goes off. He goes through like a board, like an interview type process. And when he gets kicked back, he gets rejected. Now, I don't know what happened in this interview, but apparently the promotion board's official reason for not promoting him was his religious convictions were too staunch and they recommended him for a psychological evaluation.
Beg your pardon? He doesn't sound at this point. He doesn't seem like he has, you know, very strict religious values. Even if he did, how would that impact him in this role?
The commanding officer that had recommended him for officer candidate school finds out about this. He's pretty pissed off, feels bad for Logan, brings him back into his office. He apologizes and then immediately promotes him to staff sergeant. A couple days after that, he gets orders, grab your shit, get on the train. He gets on the train. Next thing he knows, he's in San Francisco. Then they tell him, get on the boat. He gets on the boat. Next thing he knows, he's in some tropical paradise called Fiji. And he's training with the local islanders in jungle combat, these Fijian scouts. Apparently, they're all 6 foot tall. They're all 200 plus pounds, which in 1941 was a massive dude, and apparently they are ungodly good at jungle warfare. He said that they would do mock war games and the Fijian scouts would just wait till night so the Americans would have double, triple the normal amount of security, and somehow the Fijian scouts would still sneak into their camp and take markers and just put lines across people's necks while they were sleeping, simulating I would have just killed you with a knife in your sleep.
I have a dick on my face, don't I?
And
or a line on your neck. Well, you know, as far as, you know, places you could end up in during the wartime, I wouldn't mind going to Fiji.
this is initially who's teaching him and all the rest of his guys how to operate in a jungle environment. And then when he's not training, he's still doing his pseudo chaplain thing. He's leading little prayer groups, religious services. He's counseling guys that are having trouble with stuff back home or just trouble in general. And that's what he does. And this goes on for months. And then one day they tell him, all right, get on the boats. From here, his ship kind of goes around the Pacific on these search and destroy missions. Basically, Navy intelligence is triangulating where Japanese radio signals are coming from on these little tiny itty bitty islands out in the ocean where the Japanese have left small contingencies of men that are basically just trying to track American ship and airplane movements and radioing it back to their intelligence. So they're triangulating where these guys are. They go in and destroy their outpost. Logan wants
because at this point they don't use sonar, is that right? They don't, so they have to rely on their optics to spot the American forces.
Ends up going out on a couple of these missions, but all the outposts that he finds have already been abandoned, so they just destroy the equipment and head back to the ship. While that's going on, they celebrate Christmas of 1942 on the ship. They don't get any special food because the supply ship was sunk by an enemy submarine.
This is the worst.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, his convoy gets attacked by an enemy submarine, and he's on the deck watching the entire thing as the American Navy sinks this Japanese submarine. And this is like his defining, oh shit, this is for real moment. In his words, and I quote, "For the first time, I realized that I was on my way to kill or be killed." Shortly after this, they are informed that they're going to be partaking in the first major Allied offensive against the Japanese by making an amphibious landing on an island known as Guadalcanal.
I suppose I would assume that's a realization moment that all soldiers experienced, and I can't even imagine how that would change your mentality and what your headspace would be like at that point. The realization that you're about to kill or be killed, and that's the only way forward. There's no going back. I suppose up until then, if it's been a relatively uneventful time or experience up until this point, that must be a very, I don't know, kind of like a dark place to be in. I would assume anyway, for me.
Logan is then individually notified / congratulated because he is receiving a battlefield commission and he is now going to become a lieutenant. He's an officer now. He is then immediately informed that the platoon that he's taking charge of is going to be the first ones to land at Guadalcanal. Okay, just so we're all on the same page, from his perspective, you have to appreciate this. He's basically just been told he's going to lead the first 30 men into combat on offense against the Japanese, and he got promoted to do it. So in the back of his head, he's got to be thinking like, okay, either A, they think I'm awesome. Probably not very likely considering I have no combat experience. B, I just got promoted to be a sacrificial lamb.
Love that film. yeah, I was just thinking in the back of my mind, oh my gosh, but he's got no combat experience. Great.
But if he celebrated Christmas on a ship in 1942, he couldn't have. Shut up. I know what you're going to say. Just shut up. You're going to ruin the story. I'm going to address it. All right? Buh.
I don't know what they were going to say.
All right, they make it to Guadalcanal. They board the amphibious landing ships. Logan and his platoon are the first ones in the first ship. They're making their way towards the island. They're getting closer and closer and closer. And then the door on the Higgins boat drops. And like, this is it. This is the moment. Adrenaline's high. This is the moment he's supposed to run out of that Higgins boat onto the beach, engage the enemy in combat, and get revenge for Pearl Harbor. And that's exactly what he goes to do. He's the first one off that Higgins boat. As he runs, jumps off that door into the water, immediately sinks up to his neck in the ocean.
Yeah, I always try and empathize with what these young lads must have felt at the time, and you know, that door dropping, and then I can only imagine there's got to be an element of, maybe it's adrenaline, maybe that takes over and you charge because this is what you've been training for. I can't help feeling like there must have been even a small number of these young men that would have just been paralyzed with fear. And trying to imagine what that must have been like. I don't know, maybe they allow that camaraderie, you know, their fellow soldier next to them. Maybe they're inspired by their, you know, their gusto to get going. And I don't know. I know I would be absolutely scared stiff.
Hey, wind immediately taken out of his sails. Cool guy moment, gone forever, and it is now turned into an oh shit moment as he desperately tries to run through the ocean to get to this beach as fast as he can. Which obviously isn't very fast, but luckily they're not taking enemy gunfire or artillery or anything, so they all make it to the beach. He establishes a beachhead, gets all of his men accounted for, and then they kind of wait for some more people to make the landing on the beach, and then they push further inland. At this point, Logan and probably everybody else is thinking in their head like, okay, well, this was supposed to be a major battle. We're the first Americans to land to engage the enemy. Where are these guys? We know they're here. We're about to walk face first into an ambush. That's what's about to happen. Anxiety is very high.
That anxiety,
oh my gosh. So they go. They push further inland, waiting for this ambush to come, and after a couple hundred yards, they find the enemy, or what's left of the enemy.
Oh. What happened?
There's dead guys and chunks of dead bad guys everywhere that's been left rotting out in the sun. There's supplies scattered all over the place. Anything that even slightly resembled a structure has been completely destroyed. Somebody has already been here and just laid waste to this entire thing. So they kind of just take up a holding position and wait for orders, and then, you know, word comes down, they get everything figured out. Apparently the Marines have beat the army here by like 2 months.
Oh.
Come, Gimli! We're gaining on them!
I'm wasted on cross-country. We dwarves are natural sprinters.
Sidebar, I love this part of the story because all I can think about is the TV show The Pacific, when the army shows up after the Marines have already been there, and the Marines show up and raid all the army supplies because they're starving. Also worth mentioning, his army unit was not the first army unit to make it to the island either. Okay, the Marine Corps made it there on August 7th, 1942. The Army got there in October of 1942. He celebrated Christmas on his ship in 1942, then went out on some more search and destroy missions on different islands. His unit doesn't even get there till like April of 1943. The Guadalcanal campaign is declared a victory in February.
Missed it by that much.
Ken, I know what you're thinking. Why? Why would you tell the story that way if you knew this all along? Okay? Couple of reasons. Reason number one, it pisses off the keyboard warriors, and I love doing that. It's like my second favorite pastime after shitting on communism. And
oh, the keyboard warriors.
two, you have to realize this is a story from the first person perspective, which is an incredible way to learn history. Could I have just used the internet and the hindsight being 2020 thing to be like, yeah, he showed up to Guadalcanal 7 months after the Marines got there, and the battle was pretty much over by the time he got there, and then moved on with the story? Yeah, I could have, but
yeah, but we want to hear the story from the perspective of Logan and his men, don't we? And this is very much how, you know, they would have been pumped. They would have been, they hadn't had any idea that this had happened. So thank you, Nick. I appreciate your storytelling skills because it's played out a lot better for me here. Thank you.
And you don't get a proper grasp on how incredibly confusing and misinformed a singular person on the battlefield can be in regards to the information that they have at the time. And you would never be able to understand that while the battle was already over by the time he got there, he didn't know that at the time. So when that door on the Higgins boat dropped, he was fully expecting to get lit up by enemy machine gun fire. Once he fell in the ocean and was wading through neck-deep water, he was expecting to get shot in the head by an enemy sniper at any moment. So while in reality, hindsight being 2020, he was never actually in any danger other than maybe drowning in the ocean.
And I think that anxiety, that unknowing, it was, you know, the common feeling for all of these lads here, for the soldiers. So
he still performed an incredible act of bravery. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Guadalcanal, the battle, like I said, ended in February. The main battle is wrapped up for the most part. The only thing left is there's small squads and individual guys or groups of 2 and 3 that are out in the jungles conducting guerrilla warfare. So he does go out on multiple patrols trying to find these guys. And on one occasion, he does. He takes his men out, they're patrolling through this really dense jungle. They're in a single file line on this narrow path through the jungle. He rounds a bend and literally bumps into 3 Japanese soldiers, and immediately, before he even knows what happens, shoots all 3 of them.
Oh. Do you think he had that moment of absolute kind of shock and horror? Like, oh, wasn't expecting this. What do I do? And the instinct, the reflex was to shoot.
After inspecting their bodies inside of the helmets of one of the dead Japanese soldiers, he finds a family picture of him, his wife, and his child, and it eats him alive. He prays about it a ton. He didn't want to kill anybody. He knows that, but ultimately he just comes to accept what he already knew the moment he saw that submarine go down. It was kill or be killed.
It is kill or be killed. And that's awful. Like, but that's the reality of, you know, of these wars. A lot of peaceful tactics, a lot of negotiations, they've been absolutely exhausted. This is the outcome. This is kill or be killed. It's horrible. No one would say otherwise. No one willingly, or very few people, willingly go out wanting to kill other people without giving it a single thought. I don't think that's human behavior, is it?
Once they get back from patrol, he winds up telling his commander everything that happens. He's expecting like a good job, an attaboy. You took out 3 of the enemy. I sent you out into the jungle to find him. You found him. You did your job. Good job. That's not what he gets. He gets a tremendous ass chewing from his commanding officer because there's no reason that an officer should have been out in front. He should have had, you know, his lower enlisted men leading the way, and his life should have never even been at risk. He should have let somebody else do that for him. And Logan pushes back against the commanding officer. He's like, I'm sorry. I thought I was commissioned to lead my troops, not drive them. And this pretty much solidifies his leadership style of, he basically made a vow to himself that he's never going to ask one of the men under his command to do something that he wasn't willing to do himself. From here, the next 2.5 to 3 months that he spends on Guadalcanal, he's still going out on patrols. He does get involved in some more skirmishes, but they don't need everybody patrolling the jungle, so they end up doing a ton more jungle warfare training. And when he's not doing that, in his free time, he pretty much gives all of his time to being a pseudo chaplain to all the men, because obviously not a lot of religious leaders on Guadalcanal at the time. And unfortunately, this is that point in the war where a lot of soldiers start getting Dear John letters from back home where their wives or fiancés or girlfriends are leaving them for somebody else. And he's doing everything he can to help those guys through it. And this is where he really starts to pick up his nickname, the Fighting Preacher, or Preacher for short. Then after about 3 months, they get the orders, get on the boats, we're gonna go invade another island, and this time, it's for real.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
All right, July 3rd, 1943, they board the ship. Once they get on the ship, they start telling everybody the plan. We're going over to a nearby island called New Georgia. There's an airstrip on the island. We got to take the airstrip. The obvious spot of attack is going to be the south side of the island. So under the cover of night, we're going to sail right past the south side of the island, and we're going to land on the north side of the island to catch the enemy by surprise. Once we get there, we'll open up with a naval bombardment to soften up the landings. You'll board the Higgins boats, and then you'll go take the island. That's the plan. Fast forward 3 o'clock in the morning, July 4th, 1943, they're here. It's time to go. We're going to make the landings. The Allied forces open up with this gigantic naval bombardment, and it has the opposite of the desired effect. It does not silence the enemy. It's more like stirring up a hornet's nest. Within a matter of minutes, enemy airplanes are in the air. They're dropping flares over the ships, so now it's basically broad daylight, even though it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And Preacher and the rest of the guys can now see that the Japanese are shooting artillery back at them as well. Then the destroyer that they're on starts zigzagging because there's enemy submarines in the area, and within a matter of a couple of minutes, the entire ship gets rocked, presumably by an enemy torpedo, and within minutes, they're calling to abandon ship. Okay?
A hornet's nest is quite accurate here. Oh.
Now we got a big problem because the Higgins boats aren't here yet. Okay, now typically the Higgins boats are stored inside of another ship or on top of another ship, and then they're craned off, lowered into the water, and somebody drives the Higgins boat up next to the destroyer or the troop transport. They drop that cargo netting down the side, and the guys climb down the cargo netting and get in the Higgins boats. We don't have time for all that shit. They didn't give us a timeline. They said, get off the ship. So Logan and pretty much everybody else just start jumping overboard with their full kit, backpack, gun, ammunition, everything they need to take on a mission. They're just jumping into the ocean at 3 o'clock in the morning. Luckily, the Higgins boats were already on their way, so they wind up meeting up with the Higgins boat in the ocean, and the guys in the Higgins boat pull him up top. Logan gets himself and all of his platoon into a Higgins boat, and last he knew, the order was to take New Georgia, so that's where they head.
It's fortunate that the Higgins boats were already on the way.
Take it to the beach. It is enemy machine gun fire everywhere. There's enemy planes overhead trying to drop bombs on them, and it's like this coral ground that they can't even dig into. So all the guys are just finding any tiny little depression they can and trying to hide in it. As this battle rages on, Logan gets all of his platoon accounted for. Everybody made it to the beach, which is great. Then he moves on to, assembling the bigger picture of the battlefield. He's the officer. He has to know what's going on to tell his men what to do, and he starts looking for the other officers. He can't find any, and he starts to realize that 2/3 of his battalion made it to the beach and another third didn't, and in that third that didn't is apparently most of the other officers, and he is now in charge of the rest of this battalion, even though he's only a second lieutenant. Daylight comes, they fight tooth and nail all day long, agonizingly slow, and by evening on that first day, they've managed to get about 300 yards deep on the beach and about a mile wide. That's their beachhead. That's all they've got. By this point, other high-ranking officers have made it onto the beach, and they make the call that they're not going to keep pushing into the jungle as the sun's going down, because it just seems like a bad idea to follow the enemy into the jungle in the dark. So
I was just going to say, jungle at night, don't do that.
They decide to set up security for the night, and they're going to handle the rest in the morning. Morning comes around, Logan gets the order that he's supposed to reestablish contact with the enemy, aka go fucking get them. From here, they basically use this beachhead as a base and conduct patrols into the jungle looking for the enemy. Logan doesn't go into great detail of like play-by-play of what happens every single patrol, but he does say during this period of time, all of his men picked up the habit of shooting and or bayoneting every dead Japanese guy they saw, because they figured out pretty quick that the Japanese like to pretend to be dead and then try to shoot you in the back after you walk by.
But isn't this a tactic that the Japanese forces used as well? So every fallen soldier, every opponent that they came across, they bayonet. Maybe this is why they're super good at playing possum.
He also said during this period of time, he and his men became experts in clearing out Japanese machine gun nests. As soon as that Japanese machine gun would open fire, everybody would hit the deck. They'd return so much suppressing fire that the Japanese couldn't look up to man the gun. And while they were keeping their heads down, somebody would run up there with grenades and clear them out. This goes on every day for about 2 weeks straight. And then his platoon gets relieved by a Marine unit, and they get sent back to the beach to get some R&R and then wait for new orders. After a couple of days of hanging out on the beach, new orders come down, and here's basically what's going on the island at this point. The Japanese have brought in reinforcements to defend this airfield, and the Marine and the Army units that are trying to take the airfield are basically stuck in a stalemate. So Logan and his battalion are being sent in, okay? Battalion, not company, not platoon, battalion. Like 900 guys are being sent in, and their job is going to be to block the main supply road leading to this airport to cut off Japanese supplies, so it weakens them so they can take over this airfield. The problem, it's like 17 miles away, and there are no roads. They're going to have to traverse 17 miles of this jungle island terrain to get there. So
oh no, that's like the worst terrain. It's unfamiliar terrain as well. So I imagine there's like that carries its own dangers anyway.
They set off carrying 5 days worth of food and water on their backs, and it is absolutely miserable. It's either cliffs made out of coral like this, or it's dense jungle, or it's swamps. Pretty much the entire 900-man element is marching through potentially enemy territory in a single file line. It is a slow and painful journey, and the entire way they're rotating out which platoon is at the very front leading point. When it's time for Logan's platoon to lead point, he's got a couple of scouts out in front of him, then it's him, and then 900 guys behind him in a straight line walking through the enemy jungle. They're like an hour into his shift at leading point, and all of a sudden he hears a gunshot from out in front of him. Logan and pretty much everybody else hits the dirt, assuming they're getting ambushed, and then after a couple of seconds, nothing. No more gunshots. It's just quiet. After a couple of seconds, Logan gets absolutely pissed. He's thinking in his head like, okay, one of my scouts just shot at an animal or accidentally dropped his gun and fired off a round while we're trying to sneak 900 guys through enemy held territory and risk everybody's lives. I got to go up there and see what the fuck is going on. So
I imagine at this point he's about to turn around and give someone an absolute bollocking.
he marches up there, finds his scout, and he's about to chew this guy out. Basically asks him, what just happened? Why are you shooting your gun? And then up above him in the trees, he hears something falling and rustling around in the trees, and it's making its way down, and then a Japanese rifle falls right at his feet in front of him and the scouts. And then something even bigger starts rustling in the trees, making its way down, and then a dead Japanese soldier falls right on top of the rifle, and the scout looks at him and goes, I didn't have enough time to take the shot I wanted. I'm pretty sure he was aiming at you. And Logan's like, all right, good, good work.
Well, good job.
Carry on. After that, the formation keeps making this arduous journey towards the objective, and it takes them 4 days straight to cover 17 miles. But eventually they make it to the objective, they identify the trail, then they backtrack, they find a small knoll, they dig trenches, they set up a defensive fighting position in case they get attacked, and then they're going to be able to launch ambushes on this trail to shut down the Japanese supply lines. And pretty much as soon as they get their trenches dug, they get attacked instead. They repel multiple attacks all day and all night, and then it starts raining. And they repel multiple attacks the next day, and it keeps raining. And by the time they realize how dire their situation actually is, the rain and the tropical humidity has destroyed the batteries in the radio, and they have no contact with the outside world. By this point, they have been attacked from every direction and know that they are completely surrounded and totally outnumbered. And if that wasn't bad enough, they only brought 5 days worth of food with them, and it took them 4 days to get here.
I like that Nick's pacing here, because I feel like this is a long video as well, so there's an awful lot of information to cram into the time, but I feel like Nick's pacing is matching kind of the chaos that must have been felt here. But then we've got points where kind of Nick kind of takes a little bit more time. I think it flows well with the story, like, you know, the trudging through the jungle, just thought I'd mention it.
And it keeps raining.
We've been through every kind of rain there is.
And this goes on for days, just sitting in a trench in the rain, can't get up, can't look out, completely surrounded. Sometimes they're launching bonsai attacks, they'll repel the attack, but that's it. They can't go anywhere. They're just stuck, held there by the enemy. And then eventually days turn into weeks. Everybody is starving. The only water they're getting is by taking their canteen cups and catching rain to drink it. They start eating any edible plant that's anywhere nearby. They're doing everything they can to survive, but they are actually starving to death. It's absolutely awful. Guys are sitting in trenches that are full of water. They're getting trench foot. They're getting other skin infections. Guys are getting sick. They're all starving. And to make things worse, the Japanese bodies that have been out there for over a week or 2 weeks at this point are starting to rot in the tropical humidity, and it reeks. Logan's doing everything he can for the men in his platoon, going from foxhole to foxhole, trying to check in on everybody at least once a day to give everybody words of reassurance, but he knows it's looking bleak, and so do they.
I suppose it's a major difference between the Pacific Theater and, you know, you've got the humidity, you've got the climate, but you've got like the environment itself, you know. Oh, I can't imagine that. The smell of the rotting corpses. Oh.
Beginning of the 3rd week of being surrounded, cut off, and starving, Logan wakes up with this big ass beetle on his chest, and this beetle like kind of flares its like wings open to take off, and when it does that, a single grain of rice falls onto his chest.
Oh.
And he's just kind of looking at it, and he has an epiphany. The Japanese soldiers probably have sacks of rice on them for food. That night, under the cover of darkness, Logan grabs a couple of guys, they crawl out into no man land and start scavenging bags of rice off the dead Japanese soldiers and bring it back and distribute it amongst all the men. It's not much, but it's the only thing they've had in weeks and the only thing that keeps them going. On the
That must have been the best tasting rice ever.
27th day, the battalion commander calls the officers in for a meeting because he's got some news, and most of the other officers are too sick, wounded, or dead to even show up. And Logan isn't doing great himself. He's lost a ton of weight. He's sick. He's sucking just like everybody else, but for some reason, he's in the best shape. So he pretty much gets given this mission by default. The commander basically tells Logan that by now, 27 days later, there was another massive army unit that was supposed to land nearby. He wants to send Logan out with some guys and see if he can find this unit and get help. Obviously, Logan's platoon, or any platoon for that matter in the battalion, isn't capable of doing this mission by themselves, so Logan has to go around and just pick anybody that's physically capable of maybe traversing this jungle for miles on end. And out of the 900 men they came with, he finds 34 guys that might be able to do it. So they take off. They're not moving fast, but hey, they're moving. And shockingly enough, they don't actually run into the enemy. His best guess is that army unit did land somewhere nearby, and these guys have all been diverted to go handle them. After about 6 miles of traversing this jungle, they hear footsteps off in the distance. He orders his guys off the trail. They only go a couple feet off the trail. The jungle's so thick, nobody's going to be able to see them. They'll be able to walk right by. And as these guys go walking by, they're Americans. Logan and his guys make contact, and these guys are actually out looking for what they called the Lost Battalion.
Oh.
Right here.
I'm right here.
Yeah, that's it.
From here, they double back, they grab even more fresh guys, then Logan takes them back to his battalion. They get everybody evacuated to a safe area on the island and get everybody medical treatment. Bear in mind, Logan is one of the guys in the best shape out of this 900, and it takes him 3 weeks to recuperate, to regain weight, and get all of his skin and foot problems healed up.
And just to reiterate, out of the 900 men, 35, including Logan, because he took 34 with him, didn't he? So 35 were in this reasonably, but not okay condition, where they could, undertake this mission that they've been given. But everyone else was not fit enough to walk this distance. And he was in the best shape, and it took him 3 weeks to recoup. Oh, that's horrible.
In the second week of his recuperation, he gets some mail addressed to him, and it is post-dated 14 months prior. So the mail's finally reaching him. It's just 14 months late. He got 2 letters. One of them is from mom and dad, and the other one is from his lovely fiance. Mom and dad wrote him to let him know, oh, by the way, we're getting a divorce. Okay, that sucks. Opens up the next letter. Oh, his fiance's leaving him. Perfect.
Oh, no, it is a Dear John letter. Oh, my heart's breaking for him. That sucks. And he is living out in the worst conditions. Oh, my heart is actually bleeding for him.
But he's already been through so much shit this past month, it doesn't even faze him. He's just numb to everything. He's like Forrest Gump.
One less thing.
By the third week, pretty much everybody in the battalion that isn't going to need long-term care is in as good a shape as they're going to get in. They get some new reinforcements, and the battalion is sent back out on a new mission. They're supposed to go out to some hill called TodayI Hill, 11 miles away, and establish a defensive fighting position there and just wait for the enemy, I guess.
Deja vu.
But this time they do have 6 indigenous guys that are going to function as guides for the battalion, and one of them gets assigned to Logan, and this guy's name is Beatty. So Logan, Beatty, the rest of the battalion take off, march their happy asses 11 miles through the jungle, get to TodayI Hill, and set up a defensive fighting position just like they were instructed to do. And you're never going to guess what happens. They get completely surrounded again almost immediately.
It wasn't Beatty, was it?
And this time, it's for 21 days straight. The difference is they're all fairly healthy to begin with, and now they know how to play the game, and they don't give a single fuck about the enemy. Immediately, they're taking all the rice off the dead Japanese soldiers. The native guys are showing them all the tips and tricks that the natives know, oh, we can actually eat this type of bark. We can use this plant. It's good seasoning. They're actually cooking different forms of rice. They're figuring out, oh, if I cook the rice with this bark off this tree, it tastes like chicken broth. And if I use this nut over here, it ends up tasting like oysters.
Oh, maybe it wasn't Beatty. Beatty's still good. Oh, okay.
They're literally playing Master Chef, seeing who can come up with the best local cuisine while they're in an active firefight for 21 days straight.
Oh. Hearty, rustic.
I realize how insane it sounds that these guys are just like having a frat party in the middle of this firefight, but I'm gonna.
There's nutty notes in there, and then it's and then you can really taste the rice coming through there just at the end. There, you see, taste that.
Read you a direct quote from Logan. Quote,
Perfect
between
seasoning.
lulls and firing, we would argue in defense of our culinary opinions. We refused to let the enemy disturb us. If he came too close, he would be the recipient of a burst of machine gun or rifle fire. If he prowled at night, he would be sure to intercept a grenade.
Bye-bye. Oh, look out. Thank you for coming by. Have a good day. I'm going to enjoy my watch.
He then goes...
All right, off you go. You're interrupting dinner time. Go away. We're having boxed seasoned chicken broth and rice today.
on to say, and I quote, "We were surrounded, but it just didn't bother us anymore." By the 19th day, apparently the battalion commander decides that the party needs to come to an end. He needs somebody to go penetrate behind enemy lines, make contact with an allied unit, and, you know, come in and clean this situation up. Logan Weston basically gets assigned the task because he is the most experienced patrol officer in the battalion. He gets given 33 of the best in shape guys, and he takes his local guide, Beatty, with him. From here, Logan and Beatty and the other 30 guys with him all get together in an area, and then a bunch of the other guys in the battalion get ready, and they've identified the weakest spot in the enemy line. The battalion lays down a bunch of covering fire. They punch through this weak spot in the enemy line, and these 30 guys plus Beatty and Logan disappear into the jungle. What?
Do you think it's fair to say that Logan and his men were chosen for this because of their absolute lack of giving a crap at this point? Like, they're so hardened, so desensitized. This is why they chose Logan.
Once they really get moving, Beatty is absolutely incredible. This guy is having them ducking and dodging and avoiding the Japanese left and right. They're like invisible ghosts in the jungle under this guy's guidance. After about 4 miles, they get to a spot where they need to exercise a little bit more caution. And remember, Logan's the kind of commander where he's not going to ask anybody to do anything he wouldn't do himself. So he grabs Beatty, and those two take off to scout everything beforehand to make sure it's not an enemy ambush. They're making their way down this trail. Logan turns a corner, and off in the distance, he sees a Japanese soldier, and the Japanese soldier is raising his rifle and pointing it at Logan. Logan, realizing that he's about to lose a quick draw contest, immediately drops to his knees and hip fires towards the guy. Doesn't hit him, but it scares the guy enough that he jumps into the brush. And from here, all hell breaks loose. There's rifle fire and machine gun fire coming from the left, the right, down the trail, absolutely everywhere. They turn and start running. They dive off the trail. They wind up making their way into this swamp and swim through and hide in this swamp. After they're convinced that they lost him, they climb out of this swamp. Immediately, he realizes, like, I've had so much adrenaline pumping, I'm not sure if I've been shot or if Beatty's been shot. So they wipe the mud off Beatty, check him out. He's perfectly fine. Then they start wiping the mud off him. He's got a bullet hole in his helmet right above his right eye. Oh shit. Takes the helmet off, checks his head. The bullet had entered the helmet and skirted around the helmet till it lost velocity. Didn't even touch him. Continue.
What? I didn't even realize that could happen. That is actually nuts.
He's checking himself out. He's got a bullet wedged in the heel of his boot. Another bullet had apparently cut the watch off of his wrist and grazed him. And a fourth bullet had apparently glanced off of one of his frag grenades, and he was completely fine.
They're invincible! Someone up there loves them.
We should be fucking dead, man.
Right?
So they start making their way back to their platoon, and Beatty is just like blown away talking to Logan like, wow, your god must be really powerful to be able to protect you like that. I need to know more about this guy. Like, can I worship this god? Can I be part of the club? What do I got to do? And Logan, AKA Preacher, is like, yeah, man, of course you can. Just, you know, accept God as your, you know, Lord and Savior and love him. He'll love you back. Bada bing, bada boom. You're a Christian. Hearing that, Beatty's in. So like him and Logan stop for a minute. They say a prayer together. And in Beatty's mind, he is now like a complete reborn again Christian. And from his perspective, he now thinks that he's basically immune to bullets. So he's so excited and pumped that he like starts singing and dancing loudly as they're walking back to the guys through enemy territory. And Logan is trying to get this guy to shut the fuck up, but he can't because now he thinks that bullets don't affect him. And then, as fate would have it, apparently him singing scares a group of parrots or some kind of fucking bird, and they take off and start squawking, and the birds apparently scared a bunch of monkeys, and then the monkeys start running around screeching, and the next thing you know, all of the wildlife in the area is running around making a shit ton of noise, and apparently this convinces the Japanese that a much larger element of guys is headed their direction, so they're able to make it back to his platoon without a a single shot being fired, and then the platoon is able to make it back to the battalion under the cover of all this noise.
Oh, you couldn't make it up. BT, you might have become my favorite character in this story. Oh, it was meant to be. It's a sign.
Put on the food. Oh, God. I love you, God.
They're back at the hill with the battalion for 2 days before the battalion commander decides, fuck this, we gotta
Playing
punch
out in my
through and
head.
reconvene with this bigger army unit so we can get out of here. They march the entire battalion into the jungle with Logan leading point the entire time, and for 4 days they launch multiple attacks on different spots on the enemy line, trying to punch through. And again, as fate would have it, on the 4th day, other army units and Marines launched their attack on the airfield on the island, which caused all the Japanese in the area to fall back to defend the airfield, and they were finally able to punch through. They're able to reconnect with the 25th Infantry Division, those other units were able to take the airfield, and the New Georgia campaign is essentially over. Logan's battalion gets put on R&R for the next 2 weeks, where his main goal is to try to regain some weight, because over the course of this campaign, he's gone from 185 pounds to 119 pounds. After that, his unit gets sent back to Guadalcanal, where they're going to get new reinforcements, new equipment, everything they need to accept their new mission, and after 3 days on being in Guadalcanal, Logan hears about a call going out requesting guys with extensive jungle warfare experience to go on a super dangerous secret mission. They're not even going to tell you what it is unless you accept it.
Logan. Rest. Don't.
Logan hears this and is like, I know my fiance just left me, my parents are getting a divorce, and I just had a party in the jungle for the past 21 days. Fuck it, why not? I'll go.
No.
Within 24 hours of volunteering for this dangerous mission, he is then told to get on a boat. That boat takes him to an island, then they stop there for a little bit, then they go to another island, then another island, and the next thing he knows, he's in Australia, everybody's talking funny, he's there for a little bit, then they tell him to get on the boat again, they take him to some place called India, and he is like, what the fuck is going on here?
I started looking out the window. I was like, what the fuck? Gun store, liquor store, gun store. Where the fuck are you taking me?
They start boarding all these beat up rickety trains going from place to place, and there's just extreme poverty everywhere at these train stations. Nobody speaks English. It's overwhelming. This dude was born in a cabin in the woods in 1914 up in Pennsylvania. He doesn't have the internet. He's never seen the Indian street food vendor videos. He's just completely overwhelmed. And he's
I'm kind of a little bit jealous of him experiencing Indian food for the first time, though. It's a flavor explosion.
still has no idea where he's going. Eventually, they wind up at some like training area that is within eyeshot of the Taj Mahal, and he's just like,
wow.
Again, imagine growing up in a cabin in the woods in 1914 in Pennsylvania, and the first time you hear or see about the Taj Mahal, it's in person. From here, they just start conducting more jungle warfare training. So now, once all the guys are here, they kind of figure out they got about 3,000 guys. They split them up into 3 different battalions. You've got Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. From what I understand, Alpha group was basically fresh recruits. Bravo group was new guys that didn't have combat experience, but they had gone through a bunch of jungle warfare training. And Charlie group, which is where Logan winds up getting attached to, is the group of guys that were all recruited from Guadalcanal in the Pacific that have a ton of jungle warfare combat experience. So they get to train in jungle warfare. Obviously, the Charlie group guys are trying to help out the Alpha and Bravo group guys, giving them all the tips, tricks, and pointers that they learned during their actual combat experience. Outside of that, they run into another problem. They brought 3,000 guys on this super dangerous volunteer-only mission, and they didn't assign a single chaplain to these guys, so they don't have any religious services or anything. So Logan steps up and he starts doing it in his free time. And this is where he really solidifies his nickname, the Fighting Preacher. And just so we're all on the same page, if you've never been in the military and you don't know, there's more to being a chaplain in the military than just like giving a religious service on Sunday and letting guys pray with you. It's really important. A lot of the times, even if you don't believe in any God, you still might have to go to the chaplain because they're at times the only resource you have to help resolve family issues. For example,
Oh my gosh, that never entered my head. So they're a multi-purpose profession, you know, being in the military here. I did not know that. He is going to be kept extremely busy.
Example, some of the stuff that Logan actually had to deal with was you have soldiers getting Dear John letters, their wives are leaving them and divorcing them, and in order for the divorce to go through legally, they need the husband's signature, but because he's in the military, they also need his commanding officer's signature or an officer's signature. So these guys are bringing all these important documents that an officer needs to sign off on to him to handle these issues, because otherwise you're trying to reach out to like generals and dudes that are more worried about the battlefield. I don't have time for your family issues.
Oh, so even outside of having to, you know, comfort people and discuss things through and be, you know, like almost like a source of therapy. Never mind, you know, conversing about God and religious matters. But there's also an element of paperwork and admin, which nobody likes to do.
Even had a guy whose house burnt down back home, and his wife needed to get the husband's signature and the commanding officer's signature so that the insurance would pay out money so his wife could have somewhere to stay. And Logan steps in and fills that void. So he really is doing really important work in his free time. I mean, imagine if you were a soldier going on a super dangerous mission, you don't even know what it is yet, and back home, your wife and kids had the house burned down and you can't get them money until somebody signs a piece of paper for you. That's
Well, you're not only just not there to help, you must feel so powerless, and then on top of that you've got the paperwork.
the most important thing in the world. Also, during this 3 months, they wind up finding out who their commander is, General Merrill, which is where they obviously get their nickname, Merrill's Marauders. And then they find out what their mission is, and it's pretty much absolutely insane. All right, so here's what's going on. The Empire of Japan's trying to take over pretty much all of Southeast Asia and China, and they have basically got China in a bad position. They've essentially cut China off from the rest of the world. There's no way to get supplies in and out of China so they can receive aid from the Allies. So the Allies need to figure out a way to be able to get supplies into China to help them out, and the way they are going to do this is with these guys, Merrill's Marauders. They're going to send them on foot from India into Burma, where they are then going to conduct guerrilla warfare against the Japanese so that they can secure the Burma road and have a way to get stuff in. Okay, it's like 140, 150 miles of the worst terrain imaginable just to get to where the mission actually starts. And then it's another 800 miles of fighting through enemy held territory. Okay, and I know what you're thinking. If the entire problem is we can't get supplies into this area, how on earth are we going to be able to get these guys food, water, and ammunition to fight in the jungle, burning 5,000, 6,000, 8,000 calories a day when we can't get supplies there? How is that going to work? Oh, simple. We're just going to airdrop stuff in whenever they need it. Okay, I'm going to say that again, but slower. The plan is to penetrate hundreds upon hundreds of miles into enemy-held jungle. You have no backup. You have no resources other than aerial supply drops. And by the way, every time an aerial supply drop comes, it kind of alerts the enemy as to where you're fucking at.
You don't have a better bad idea than this?
And not only that, but how accurate can the drops be? These soldiers are going to have to go out searching for the drops as well. So that's going to be really time consuming.
This is the best bad idea we have, sir. By far.
And then one day they bring in a bunch of officers for a meeting and they ask for a volunteer to accept a very dangerous mission, at which all the officers are kind of looking around like, I thought we already did that. Are you asking me to double down? Like, we're already inside of a very dangerous volunteer-only mission. You want another volunteer inside of that to go on another very dangerous mission in respect to what we're already doing? Nobody volunteers. So
it's like a bit of a shit sandwich, really, isn't it? Within...
The commanding officer, seeing that he has no volunteers, scans the room and sees Logan Weston, who's quite a bit taller than most of the rest of the officers, and everybody knows who he is. That's Preacher. He's got a big name, and everybody knows he has extensive jungle warfare experience. And the commanding officer just says, Preacher, thank you for volunteering. Congratulations, you are now the commanding officer of Charlie Group's INR platoon. Which, if you don't know, INR, Intelligence and Reconnaissance, aka the Scouting Platoon. So basically, it is now going to be the job of Logan and his 30 to 40 man scout platoon to be like 30, 40 miles ahead of the 3,000 man formation, scouting out, looking for the enemy. He is basically spearheading this entire mission. Because the INR platoon doesn't actually exist yet, it's just him, the commander, he gets permission to handpick anybody from these 3,000 guys that he wants. He pretty much exclusively picks from Charlie Group because he picks the top 200 guys with the most combat experience and interviews all of them. Out of those 200 that he interviews, interviews, he picks the 54 best guys in his opinion, and he makes sure that all of them have some type of religious convictions because he thinks that he wants guys on his side that truly believe that they're protected by God, because that's the only way we're gonna get through this shit. After he builds the platoon, they spend the rest of the time they have training their asses off. They are burning more calories every day training than they're taking in from chow, so they're the most experienced combat guys around. They're the best of the best. They adopt the habit of raiding the chow halls of Alpha and Bravo group, the inexperienced new guys, and they earn themselves the nickname the Chow Raiders. And that later gets changed to the Ignorant and Rugged Platoon, a play on I&R. After training time elapses, they board trains and they head to the border. They're staging up there for a little bit. During this period of time, Logan becomes friends with the battalion surgeon, a
The Ignorant and Rugged
guy by the name of Dr. James Hopkins, the great-grandnephew of John Hopkins, you know, like John Hopkins Hospital. Now, up until this point, they've been told the entire time, hey, we've had a bunch of engineers out there. They're already building a road that's supposed to go and hook up to the Burma Road. So you guys are actually going to be able to drive into enemy territory on trucks.
I don't believe you.
That's not what happens. They're working on a road, but it ain't that kind of road yet. Trucks aren't going to be able to make it, so they have to go and unload a bunch of mules off of trains, and they're going to carry all their equipment and ammunition and supplies on mules.
Donkey!
So they get the mules loaded up, and Logan and the I&R platoon take off 24 hours before anybody else does. Originally, they've got this like gravel road that was made by the engineers known as the Lido Road. They follow that for about 80 miles. They're running into engineers. The engineers are making coffee for them. It's not that bad. I mean, they're walking with 65-pound rucksacks, so that kind of sucks, but they're not really in enemy territory yet. Very quickly, though, everybody comes to kind of really get annoyed by these mules because, as I'm sure you can imagine, walking in the jungle with a 65-pound rucksack through mountainous terrain gets pretty tiring, so every hour or so they're stopping to take like a 10-minute break, and apparently the mules would see everybody else is stopping and sitting down, and then the mules would also like sit or lay down, and then the mules were incapable of getting back up when they were fully loaded with gear, so every single time they would have to unload the mules, get them stood back up, reload the mules, and pretty soon it turned into the guys that were in charge of the mules weren't actually getting a 10-minute break. They just got to spend 10 minutes unloading and reloading the mules.
Stop!
Oh no.
Jackass!
After they get to the end of the Lido Road, they just kind of take off into the jungle, headed the general direction of where the enemy is, and by January of 1944, they've traveled about 125 miles. Around this point in time, Logan gets orders that he needs to head east from where he's at because the Chinese are engaging Japanese forces. He needs to try to link up with the Chinese forces, and remember, Logan is about a day ahead of everybody else. So they start making their way there, and then eventually the lead scout notifies Logan that there's somebody up ahead on this trail. They see somebody, so they go, they check it out. It's some Asian guy in some type of uniform. So they kind of like make themselves known, not knowing if it's the Japanese or the Chinese. And then the Asian guy just kind of raises his hand and they think he's waving. They're like, oh shit, we found the Chinese guys. This is awesome.
But it's not.
You seriously never noticed? Hey, hats off to you for not seeing race.
And then the
I didn't want to ask, but at this point, most, if not all of these soldiers have probably never met an Asian person before, so without knowing, have they got a very distinctly different uniform? How do they know which side they're encountering?
Asian guy drops his arm and they start getting lit up by machine gun fire. Remember, this is 54, the most jungle warfare experienced guys we got. They all hit the deck for a second, and then within a matter of like 2 minutes, they've killed all of the Japanese soldiers that staged this ambush. Okay, just so we're on the same page, this is the first encounter between Merrill's Marauders, or America in general, and the Japanese Empire in Burma. America got ambushed by surprise, proceeded to kill everybody that ambushed them, and Logan's men didn't have a single casualty in return. We're setting a tone right out of the gate. From here, they keep making their way east. They get into some more skirmishes. Eventually, new orders come down. They got new intel. The Chinese are attacking the Japanese at a place called Wallaboom. It's a village that's basically been commandeered by the Japanese. They're using it as an outpost. They've got a ton of supplies there. Perfect target for guerrilla warfare. They're already being attacked by the Chinese on one side, so if Merrill's Marauders can come up from the other side, they'll pinch them in a vice and crush everything. For this, the I&R platoon links back up with the rest of the main force. They make their way there. They're being super sneaky, secretive in the tall grass. The Japanese don't know they're there. They're getting a lay of the land, they're checking everything out, and there's this river right by Wallaboom, right next to the road that's gonna be the same road the Japanese have to retreat through if the Chinese are able to break through their line. So they get a roadblock set up, and this is the perfect fighting position because if the Japanese want to be able to rush them to engage, they're gonna have to run through a river first. We literally have a moat. You couldn't ask for a better fighting position. There's just one flaw with it. The river has this big bend that gets really close to where the roadblock is set up, and if the Japanese can circle around them, cross the river there where it's safe, they'll be able to outflank them. So somebody's gonna need to cross the river onto the enemy side and set up a fighting position to defend the flank. And that somebody is the INR platoon. So the INR platoon crosses the river into enemy territory. They get some high ground. They set up a defensive fighting position, and then everybody just kind of waits because now we have to wait for the Chinese to punch through the Japanese lines.
Right.
And there's really no guarantee that that's going to happen. They got to figure out a way to make sure the Japanese end up retreating so that they can surprise them with this ambush. And the plan they come up with is Merrill's Marauders at this point in time has 14 Nisei, Japanese Americans that have volunteered to go on this mission too, and they are fluent in Japanese. So they start tapping into telephone lines and listening in on Japanese conversations, and through doing this, they find out that there's a massive ammo dump inside of Wallaboom.
What is that?
We need air support, and we need it now. Rolling strike package Bravo on unknown target. I authenticate Tango Whiskey.
Send the Hogs, sir.
Okay, send the Hogs over to Killbox 1 Alpha. It's a danger close within 300 feet.
Killbox 1 Alpha, 300 feet, danger close.
They blow up the ammo depot. Oh shit moment for the Japanese. Now they don't have ammunition to keep fighting. They need to get the fuck out of here, so they go to retreat, and they retreat right into the Marauders. Marauders mow a bunch of them down, then they have to retreat from that and go back into the village, and then they start sending out different scouting elements trying to figure out what's going on because now they're sandwiched out of nowhere. Then
the plan has worked, or worked so far.
They come up with a brilliant plan. We're going to send a bunch of guys to go outflank the Marauders by crossing the river on this bend, and they send 90 Japanese soldiers out there to do that, but guess who's already there? The INR platoon. The INR platoon catches them by surprise, mows a bunch of those guys down. They retreat again, and this time they come back with even more guys, but the INR platoon has one Nisei with them, and he can actually hear the Japanese officer yelling orders, so he's literally translating and telling Logan, here's what that guy's saying, they're gonna attack over here, and then they just readjust the machine guns and mow them down all over again. And this goes on for the next 5 hours straight.
That's a bit of a oversight by the Japanese there. Was this a common thing? They just had absolutely no idea, just never even entered their minds that there would be someone with the American forces that could translate what they were saying.
Farming the enemy for XP. It gets to the point that the INR platoon is surrounded on all three sides with the river to their back, and they're running low on ammunition, so Logan hops on the radio and explains the situation. So the main element of Charlie group gets some mortar guys and some machine gun guys over to that area of the river. They get set up on the opposite end of the river, and the mortars drop a bunch of smoke shells. Then they create a wall of fire, and they're ready with the machine guns. This gives the INR platoon the ability to retreat back across the river, get more ammo, and rejoin those guys, and they form a line there, preventing them from getting flanked. And remember, while all this is happening, the Chinese are still attacking and applying more pressure, forcing the Japanese to either stand their ground and fight them, or to turn and run into a wall of lead from the Marauders.
And we were slaughtering the hell out of them, you know. But they weren't backing down, let's put it that way.
Eventually, as I'm sure you can imagine, with two forces coming closer together, eventually the American forces and the Chinese forces meet because there's no Japanese forces left. When that happens, there's kind of a lull in the battle, like the Americans are like, hold on. These guys look different. They're wearing different clothes. Hang on a second. The Chinese, on the other hand, apparently did not realize that the Americans looked significantly different from the Japanese, and they opened fire.
Oh no!
I couldn't find any documentation saying whether or not any of the Chinese guys got killed, just that a firefight did occur briefly, but then eventually they kind of figured out what was happening and everything was cool.
Fine. I'll say I'm sorry.
No, be sincere. Like this. I'm sorry.
Regardless, they get it figured out. It's all good now. Wallaboom is officially ours. In the battle for Wallaboom, the Marauders unfortunately suffered 8 men killed in action and an additional 37 that were wounded. In return, however, the Marauders are credited with killing over 800 Japanese soldiers. And the Marauders are just getting started. They go on a guerrilla warfare rampage for like the next 5 months behind enemy lines. They travel over 1,000 miles on foot, kicking ass everywhere they go. But as I'm sure you can imagine, living in the jungle 24/7, doing doing everything via traveling on foot leads to a lot of people falling out from illness. You got guys getting malaria, dysentery, typhus. Everybody's running a fever to the point that it became standard operating procedure that you had to run a high fever for 3 days straight to even get medical attention for it. Don't get me wrong, they're still kicking ass, but I don't want to give you the wrong impression that it's all sunshine and suppressive fire. This still sucks. These guys are getting fatigued. Focusing back on Preacher and the INR platoon though, there's major battles they get into, but then there's also just going out on patrols and getting in skirmishes, which the INR platoon does a lot of because it's kind of their entire job. And they develop guerrilla warfare tactics that are just peak level fuckery. They would go into areas where they know the enemy is patrolling. They would set up a campsite with a campfire and even leave a mule there, and then they would drop back a little bit, find a position and set up the machine guns, and then once the Japanese launched their bonsai attack into their campsite, they'd mow them all down. On one occasion, the campsite they set up was so convincing that the Japanese decided to employ a double envelopment tactic, meaning they were going to come at them from both sides, except the INR platoon wasn't there and it was dark, so they literally attacked each other and they took out more of themselves than the INR platoon did.
What? Oh, joking. Ooh, someone's gonna get in trouble for that one.
Idiot. In another one of their major battles, the Marauders attack a place known as Napunga. During the opening stages of this fight, the Marauders wind up getting surrounded and they have no way out except one. Prior to the battle, Logan had identified a trail and recommended that he go out there and secure this trail. That way they had a way out if they did get surrounded, and now he is guarding that trail. He proceeds to get in a firefight with the INR platoon for 4 days straight, and ultimately winds up covering the withdrawal of the entire main Marauder force so they can regroup and then go take the objective later on. David Quaid, the official historian for the Merrill's Marauder Association, basically compared this to the Battle of Thermopylae and the 300 Spartans, saying,
wow,
quote, "The holding action orchestrated by Lieutenant Weston and his INR platoon lasted for 4 days against 3 days at Thermopylae. Leonidas defended his own soil. Weston defended far behind enemy lines. Leonidas lost all of his men. Weston lost none. Athens was burned by Persia, and the 53 men of the INR platoon of the Orange Combat Team saved all of the regiment and the campaign."
Just to put the success of this into perspective, for comparative reasons, amazing. Well
I cannot stress to you enough how big of a badass Logan Weston is. Okay, I had to get an entirely different book that just covers the entire Merrill's Marauder movement and campaign as a whole. This book is about 3,000 men and the movements and combat actions of humongous military elements. And inside of this book, he is mentioned by name 14 times. He's not a general, he's not a colonel, he is a platoon leader, and he is mentioned 14 times by name. That is how pivotal of a role Logan Weston and the INR platoon played in the Merrill's Marauder campaign.
Oh, we have another photo of him there. He does look tall, doesn't he?
Over the course of this campaign, remember, these guys are living in the jungle the entire time. There's no showers. They're just getting food dropped to them out of airplanes. Many of the original Marauders either fall in battle or they succumb to illness. Only 175 to 200 of the original Marauders actually make it all the way through the campaign. And Logan winds up getting medevaced during the final mission. For this mission, the Marauders need to go take out an airfield known as Machina. The problem, it is 400 miles away with the Cumon Mountains in between them. At times, the terrain these guys had to traverse was so steep they had to take their e-tools, those little shovels, and beat steps into the sides of mountains to be able to climb over it. Logan and the rest of the Marauders make it across these mountains. Once they get to the other side, Logan goes out on patrols, doing his thing with the INR platoon. That's his entire job. And during one of these patrols, he winds up getting blown up with a hand grenade. He gets medevaced. He's in the hospital for 2 weeks recovering. And while he's in the hospital, he gets word that Machina had fallen to the Marauders, but there's still a ton of cleanup to do, which is his specialty. So he volunteers to go back out, which he does.
Of course he does.
I could do this all day.
Oh, you thought he was done when I said he got medevaced during the final mission.
Not Logan.
He goes back into combat for 6 more weeks, leading the INR platoon in patrols, cleaning out the area. After 6 weeks, he gets medevaced a second time, and the official thing written on his medical documentation is AOE, accumulation of everything. Like the medics took one look at this guy and said, "What's wrong with you?" Oh shit, what isn't wrong with you? Once he gets to the hospital, he is told that he has 6 months left to live and rushed back home to America. Okay.
Why? That's got to be a bad diagnosis. Why would he have 6 months left to live? Is it like an illness that he's contracted in the jungles here? Like, is it malaria or?
Spoiler alert, obviously he survives.
Hey!
I'm so happy! This is the best day of my life!
The Marauder
As long as he
campaign
doesn't go
ends
back
shortly
out.
after this. Machina was their last major battle. Under the leadership of Logan Weston, the INR platoon is officially credited with scouting 1,250 miles of jungle, participating in 18 battles. They suffered 4 men killed in action, 5 wounded, and in return, the battalion credited this singular platoon with killing 1,260 enemy soldiers.
What? I know we're nowhere near finished with Nick's video here. So something tells me that Logan Weston is about to volunteer to go back out.
So Logan winds up getting medevac. They ship him back to America, and this journey takes weeks. And during the course of that journey, he is placed under the care of a doctor that's traveling with him and a bunch of other wounded soldiers. And that doctor is his buddy, Dr. James Hopkins. Once making it back to America, he remains under the care of Dr. James Hopkins. Despite being only given 6 months to live, he makes a full recovery. Which, I mean, obviously, A, he's under the care of a Hopkins, which is basically American medical royalty. And B, it's Logan Weston, the fighting preacher. He's going to do whatever he wants at this point. After
he's got that main character energy.
Getting discharged from the hospital, him and Dr. Hopkins get debriefed, and they're basically told, hey, here's the deal. We haven't told the American people an awful lot about what you guys were doing over in Burma. It's kind of hush-hush. Don't ever talk about this again, like for the rest of your life. Now, obviously, they're not the only ones getting debriefed. This is like one officer telling an auditorium of Merrill's Marauders this, and all the enlisted guys, for the most part, are like, okay, sounds good. I'm going back home to the farm. They all leave. James Hopkins and Logan Weston stay in the room, and they're like, that's bullshit. I should be allowed to talk about my life experiences. I'm going to do it. They are then promptly taken to the office of another high-level commander where they get into an argument, and then they wind up getting basically placed on house arrest in a local hotel and held there until they figure out what to do with them. After a couple of days of being locked in this hotel room and having different conversations with the chain of command, they come to the agreement that, okay, here's the deal. You can talk about it, but you can only talk about the stuff that's already been put out in the newspapers and in the press. And they're like, okay, hear me out. I've been in the jungles of Burma. I have no idea what's been in the newspapers the past 3 years. So they go and get like 3 years worth of newspapers and press and bring it to the hotel room and tell them, read all you want. That's what you're allowed to talk about. If it's not in there, please don't talk about it. Logan and James agree to these terms, and they spend the next couple of days reading through all these newspaper articles and magazines and everything else. Okay, and if you were in the military, I know what you're thinking. This story is completely BS because there's no way the chain of command is going through all this effort to appease 2 random guys that aren't willing to follow orders. And you know what? You're probably right 99.9% of the time. We gotta realize this isn't 2 random guys. This is 1 random guy who happens to be friends with the heir to Johns Hopkins Hospital, probably the most famous medical institution in America. And if that guy gets thrown in Leavenworth because he wants to talk about his military experience overseas, it's going to be a PR nightmare. So I'm assuming that's why they got this much leeway. Anyway,
it's all about who you know.
Anyways, they get all that sorted out. Then they get given 30 days of leave. James Hopkins is going to go back home to his family, and Logan Weston is kind of like, I don't really have any family to go home back to. My parents separated. I don't even know where they're living. My last home was my college, and I'm not really enrolled there, so I don't have anywhere to go. So James invites him to come with, and he goes and spends 30 days with the Hopkins family. After that, he gets orders to report to Fort Benning, Georgia to help with infantry school. While there, he writes a report on some recommendations on jungle warfare tactics and how to utilize them. This report gets read, immediately gets implemented, and he spends the rest of his military contract basically rewriting the book on jungle warfare and infantry tactics, as well as scouting tactics, and then teaching it to all the other instructors.
What do you say, guys? Is there still an awful lot of what Logan Weston wrote in here that is still taught today?
After that, his active duty contract is up. He's free to go. He signs up for the inactive reserves and goes back to Bible school as a junior.
Back to school. Back to school.
Okay, just so we're on the same page, he's like 30 now, and he's going back to college as a junior, which by today's standards, not that big of a deal. However, it's been 5 years since he was in college, and it's been the longest 5 years that anybody has ever lived in their entire lives. And this isn't normal college. This is Bible school in Pennsylvania in like 1946, 1947. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, he's showing up to class in a room full of what amounts to homeschooled Bible kids, and he's one of the most hardened combat veterans of all time. he doesn't really fit in. You know what I mean? What do you do with that? Little Timothy and Susan that have been sheltered their entire lives. I don't think violence is ever the answer. Huh, motherfucker, unless you want to be speaking Japanese, it's got to be the answer sometimes. So yeah, he doesn't make it very long going to class. He works out a deal with the college where they're going to allow him to complete his degree via correspondence, basically mailing the work back and forth, and he winds up taking a pastor's position at a church in a small coal mining town in Pennsylvania. So for about the next 3 years, he's finishing his degree via correspondence, and he's being the pastor to this small church. During this time period, the church finds out about his extensive combat experience, and they ask him to speak about it, and he just kind of goes up there, says the truth, everything that's going on, and there's this really pretty girl sitting in the front row, and midway through his speech, she leans over and whispers to somebody else, but he hears it. I hope we never invite this long-winded pastor here ever again.
What? I was not expecting her to say that. Rude.
She likes you.
So yeah, 3 months later, they wind up getting married. Then like a couple of weeks after they get married, he gets recalled into active duty. He goes into Fort Meade, is like, hey, here's the deal. I finished my pastorate degree. I want to become a pastor. Right now, I'm a lieutenant in the infantry. I want to switch over. I want to become a chaplain. To his surprise, he pretty much immediately gets denied, but he's stationed at Fort Meade now, and Fort Meade is like 20 miles away from Washington, D.C. So he literally just goes to the Pentagon and goes into the head chaplain of the entire U.S. Army's office and takes a meeting. He goes,
rude. He's basically been the chaplain in his platoon for years. Why is he denied it now?
In and explains to the guy the situation, like, I got pulled out of Bible school so I could go fight in World War II. I was basically a chaplain for that entire 5 years, and I definitely was a chaplain when I was over in Burma because I was the only guy there doing that job. Yes. Why can't I be a chaplain? He then gets told, according to Army regulations, you're 1 year too old to become a chaplain, no exceptions under any circumstances, which...
What? You're a year too old? So how old is he at this point? He's like, what, 30? Can you imagine being told that you're too old? I mean, I think the only people that might be told that in this day and age, at the age of 30, is maybe some models. I don't know. That's absolutely ridiculous. Or maybe like athletes, possibly. But even then, I don't really think that 30 is too old for that. Are they just overlooking the years of wisdom that these chaplains would have?
Which is fucking insane, but that's what happens. So obviously he's pretty pissed up and heartbroken about this, but there's nothing he can do about it. He winds up getting promoted to a captain in the infantry, which also is crazy that he's only a captain. It's literally second lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain. I feel like he should be ranking higher than that right now, but whatever. I
feel like all of his experience and his years of experience, I feel like they're being grossly overlooked. What the hell?
Up being an infantry captain at Fort Meade for the next 2 years. During this time, him and his new wife have their first kid. It's a son. They name him Merrill after Merrill's Marauders. Fast forward 9 months, little Merrill is 9 months old. His wife is pregnant again, and Logan gets orders to prepare for overseas duty, and he is given the option of going to Europe or going to Japan. And Logan Weston, the fighting preacher, says, I want to go to Japan and basically see what's up with him now.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
So Logan...
Oh my gosh. Well, he's more experienced with the Pacific theater, isn't he? So I get it.
Packs up his shit, says goodbye to his pregnant wife and his 9-month son Merrill, and then gets shipped over to Japan for occupation duty. Once he gets there, he's kind of shocked at the lack of animosity the Japanese people have towards the Americans, and because of that, he realizes he doesn't have any animosity towards these people either, and he kind of enjoys his time in Japan.
Why would I have hard feelings? I'm still picking pieces of your ass out of my boot.
Fast forward 6 months, June 1950, they get word that North Korea is attacking South Korea and they need to pack up because they're headed to South Korea to help them out. And they're told, don't bother bringing all your personal stuff. You're not being stationed over there. You're just going over there real quick. You shouldn't be gone more than a week.
A week, yeah? Famous last words.
All right, so Logan shows up in North Korea. He's like one of the first American military units there. If you don't know much about the Korean War, basically, if the North Koreans attacked, they shoved the South Koreans all the way down the peninsula to what's known as the Pusan Perimeter, and this is where Logan shows up. He gets there, it's all assholes and elbows. Everybody's scrambling, trying to get shit done, trying to keep the Pusan Perimeter intact.
I have not heard that expression before. It's all assholes and elbows.
He shows up, they're like, oh, infantry, captain, you have experience? Okay, cool. Take control of this company, Alpha Company of the 27th Regiment of the 25th Infantry Division. Take these guys that you don't even know yet out to the road, set up a roadblock, and if the enemy shows up, defend it. Logan heads out to their AO. They're already loading up on the trucks, getting ready to go. Has a quick meeting with his platoon and squad leaders like, hey, I'm your new boss, I guess. Let's go. They go out to this road, they scout the area, they find a good piece of terrain to set up a defensive fighting position, and they just wait. And it doesn't take very long because within a matter of hours, thousands of North Korean soldiers are coming down the road. They are outnumbered 130 to 1. Seeing this, Logan's shitting his pants. He gets on the radio like, I need artillery right now. They come back. Artillery's not even set up yet. That's not an option. While this is going on, they're actively inside of a firefight. Logan realizes he needs to strategically withdraw to a more tenable fighting position, and he's getting ready to do that. He's looking at maps. He's figuring out where he needs to move his men to give him a better chance at fighting this fight. And then 3 Russian-made T-34 tanks come barreling down the road, punch right through the block, right through the machine gun fire, and drive right past their position. Then, once they get far enough past, they stop, turn their turrets, and start firing on Logan Weston's position from the rear. Perfect, now we're surrounded, and we can't get away. There's only one option left for the main character, the fighting preacher. He's gonna say a little prayer about it, and then proceed to do some gangster shit. He hops on the radio, I need a rocket launcher team up here now. Eventually, 3 anti-tank infantry guys come tearing up on a Jeep with bazookas. Remember, the fighting preacher's never gonna ask a man to do something he wouldn't do himself, so he grabs those 3 guys and says, follow me. These tanks are about 300 yards away with nothing but rice paddies in between them. These rice paddies are like hip-deep mud, essentially. Logan takes his 3 bazooka guys, guides them towards the tanks. They traverse these rice paddies. They get within like 25 yards of these enemy tanks. While they're inside of this ditch right by these tanks, Logan instructs the rocket team. It's 3 guys, but they only got 1 launcher. Take out the lead tank, immobilize it, then immobilize the rear tank. That's going to trap the middle tank in the middle, and then we'll take it out. That's exactly what happens. They take out the tracks on the front tank, the tracks on the rear tank, immobilizing them, and then they take out the turret on the middle tank. Okay, problem now, the lead and rear tanks still have their turrets operational, and they start looking for wherever they just got hit from, so Logan instructs the men to start shooting out the periscopes on the tanks so they can't see them. While they're doing that, he reaches into his bag. He's got a couple of M1 anti-tank grenades that he starts firing at these tanks. And then
Dora the Explorer's backpack.
Suddenly,
just whip one out of the bag.
Logan regains consciousness. The 3-man launcher team is dead, and he wakes up with the torso of one of them on top of him. Besides the ringing in his ears and the guaranteed traumatic brain injury from the concussion wave, he's seemingly unscathed. Trying to think fast, thinking of where he can possibly hide to not get shot by this tank again, and the best solution he could come up with was on top of it. Once he gets up there, the enemies open the hatch. I have no idea why. I can only assume they thought he had like a satchel charge or something that was gonna blow up the tank, so they had to go up there to stop him. Regardless, they open the hatch. So he pulls out a frag grenade, throws it in the hatch, and then shuts the hatch.
That's a spicy meatball!
The other
That's a spicy meatball.
tank then opens their hatch, and he shoots all of them one by one as they attempt to get out. At this point, Logan's super jacked up, but he's got to get back to his men, let them know the tanks are knocked out so they can get evacuated. So he starts heading back through these rice paddies. As he's traversing these rice paddies again, he comes across a sump hole, which is full, so he doesn't really see it. It kind of blends in with everything else, but it's like a 5-foot deep sump hole full of human fertilizer, and he falls into it neck deep, literally in human shit. Just when he thought his day couldn't get any shittier, so he crawls out of this hole, makes his way back to his men. They're looking at him and smelling him like, what the fuck? And he's like, the tanks are gone. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Speaks like Zeus.
Smells like poops.
He gets
Oh my God.
His men evacuated back to a further fighting position, linking up with the rest of the regiment, and there they're able to hold the line for the Pusan perimeter. Logan then finally gets sent to a hospital because he got blown up by a fucking tank. For this battle, his platoon is credited with killing over 200 enemy soldiers. Logan Weston receives a Silver Star for taking out the tanks, and the battalion headquarters had this to say, quote, "The real significance of the heroic actions by Captain Weston and his men under inspired leadership must be viewed as probably successfully averting disaster. The actions of Captain Weston and his men truly turned a potentially tragic defeat into a significant victory, certainly contributing to stabilizing his sector. Then the newspapers back home find out about this, and of course they're gonna run with the story that a guy nicknamed the Fighting Preacher is taking out communist tanks, and they portray it like he did it with a bazooka, but that's not actually what happened.
Gosh, a really long week.
All right, so by like late July, Logan's patched up from the hospital. They send him out with his company on a foot patrol looking for the enemy. They walk around for days and days. They don't see shit. After that, it's time to, go back for some R&R. So they're ordered to fall back to a place called Mason that's supposed to be a safe area, pick up a defensive position, which is basically just like, you're in a safe area, be there to defend it, but nobody's coming. Chill out and relax. So that's what they're doing. They're basically camping, relaxing with the boys, hanging out. Despite the fact that everybody knows they're basically just on orders to rest, Logan's still trying to be the officer, be the perfect role model for his men. So every once in a while, he's grabbing the binoculars, he's looking around the terrain, making sure he doesn't see any enemies or anything too fishy. And then on the night of August 3rd, 1950, off in the distance, miles away, he sees people approaching. As they get closer,
it's a good thing he had those binoculars. I'd imagine as well, like his time spent in the jungle would naturally create this like hyper paranoia. Well, not paranoia, hyper vigilance. You know what I mean?
He gets a head count. There's 76 of these guys. As they get even closer, he kind of starts to get images of their uniforms. He's like, those are North Koreans. So he hops on the radio back to headquarters to report it. Nobody picks up the radio because it's nighttime and this is a safe area and everybody's already dicking off or sleeping. So Logan sends one of his guys as a runner. I've got a 76-man column of North Koreans headed right towards me. The runner comes back and basically is like, the commander said, those aren't North Koreans. They're probably South Koreans. This is a safe area. To which Logan gets back on the binoculars, looks again. They're even closer now. They're definitely North Koreans. He sends the runner back a second time with the same message. The runner gets back a second time and tells Logan, the commander says they're not North Koreans.
At this point, why would you dig your heels in and argue that? You're being told not once, you're told it twice. Why? I don't understand why you would doubt the observations of Logan here.
Which Logan is like, go back a third time, tell the commander whoever's approaching is carrying World War II era Japanese rifles and bayonets. I know what they look like because I fought these guys before. And you know who carries Japanese rifles and bayonets in the Korean War? The North Koreans. So the runner takes off a third time, probably out of breath at this point. Meanwhile, these 76 guys are just getting closer and closer and closer. By the time the runner gets back, these guys are like approaching the hill that Logan and his men are posted up on, and the runner delivers the same message over again. The commander says that this is a safe area and that there's no way that those are North Koreans. They must be South Koreans, and you just don't know how to tell the difference.
What a stupid man.
Easily, Ocean. Ain't you, Mr. Khan?
Like as soon as the runner tells this to Logan, the guys reach the base of the hill, they fan out, they start coming up the hill and opening fire on Logan and his men. Logan and his men start returning fire immediately. In between gunshots, Logan turns back to the runner, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically says, well then go ask the commander why they're fucking attacking us then. The runner takes off for a fourth time and then Logan promptly gets shot in the thigh. Logan goes into main character mode, somehow manages to stay on his feet and is still returning fire against the enemy while a medic is applying a pressure bandage to his thigh and then tells Logan, you're bleeding a lot, you need to go to an aid station like now. As Logan receives this information, the North Koreans begin yelling Manzai, which means victory in Korean, and they charge up the hill. So Logan is actively bleeding out, he's participating in the firefight, and he's directing his men on how to conduct themselves inside this firefight. He realizes the situation is changing too fast, the boys need him, he's fucking staying. Logan gets his machine gunners repositioned, they repel this bayonet charge. During the firefight, he gets shot in the arm. By this point, he's losing so much blood, he's starting to get lightheaded. He realizes he does need to get to that aid station. He instructs one of his non-commissioned officers to hold these positions. He'll be right back. Logan then proceeds to take himself to the aid station, and it is like a NASCAR pit stop. He walks in the tent like, all right, pressure bandages and tourniquets, let's fucking go. He gets turned around and heads back up the hill. As he's headed there, he grabs a box of frag grenades that he can't carry because his arm's messed up, so he drags it with his good arm back up the hill. Once he gets back to his original foxhole, things are deteriorating. Hundreds of more enemy soldiers have shown up seemingly out of nowhere from his perspective, and now he basically has riflemen fighting men in close quarters combat, like with bayonets, trying to keep them off the machine gunners, while the machine gunners are mowing down the waves of guys that are trying to make their way up the hill. So,
well, I hope the man who didn't believe Weston here feels like an absolute jackass.
Logan hops in on the action. Now he's defending the machine gunners too. He's throwing grenades down the hill. He's returning fire. When the charges actually make it close enough, he's bayoneting guys. At one point, he loses his trench knife inside some dude's rib cage. It's deteriorating fast. As all this is going on, Logan is still trying to pay attention to the overall big picture of this battlefield, and he sees that on the other end of this hill, up on the crest, an enemy machine gun team has made their way around the other side of the hill, gotten the high ground on them, and is setting up a machine gun to mow down him and his men. So Logan, by himself, grabs some grenades, makes his way there, and takes those guys out. As he takes their position, he sees that now there's an entire platoon of guys coming up the same route, launching a flanking maneuver that's also gonna wipe out him and his men. He doubles back to his guys, takes like 12 of them with him, and launches a counterattack against them to try to hold the position.
I mean, you know, fair play being able to think on the spot like this. I can't. I go to pieces under pressure. So, you know, I think that's absolutely nothing short of amazing.
This counterattack, he gets shot in the chest, somehow manages to stay in the fight, and then wipes out this enemy platoon with his guys, re-gets his guys consolidated and set back up again, and by this point, they have completely wiped out the enemy attacking force. By this point, Logan is like, I need a doctor so bad. And as he's thinking that to himself, a bunch of enemy trucks come pulling up in the distance.
No.
Logan looks over at the radio man. They start calling in mortar fire on these trucks. As the mortars get dialed in, they start hitting the trucks, and Logan is like, okay, you guys have this situation under control. I gotta go. Logan gets to the aid station, and his condition has deteriorated so much that he is beyond their level of care. They immediately transport him to an army surgical hospital outside of Busan, and he is beyond their level of care as well. They do what they can to stabilize him, and he gets shipped off to a hospital in Tokyo. Obviously, Logan survives because you can't kill this guy. While he's in the hospital, he finds out that his platoon is credited with killing 400 enemy soldiers and repelling an attack that almost certainly would have overrun regimental headquarters. And Logan individually was credited with killing 27 enemy soldiers, 6 of which with bayonet and 1 with a trench knife. For this, he was written up to receive the Medal of Honor. However, the regimental commander, you know, the same one that was told 3 times we're getting attacked, and he's like, no, we're not. That guy stepped in and was concerned that a Medal of Honor investigation into his actions would make him look like a dumbass, because he is, so he decided to intentionally have it downgraded to a Distinguished Service Cross to save his own career. So Logan was not awarded the Medal of Honor, but he was awarded the next best thing, the Distinguished Service Cross.
He's been absolutely robbed of that. That is vile. That is so unfair. Villain. This man, they didn't believe him 3 times and is now disputing whether he's entitled to... It makes me so cross, guys. It did make me chuckle to myself when he mentioned that one of the kills that Logan had was with that trench knife that was currently lost in someone's rib cage.
Don't you just love politics?
No, no, not at all.
From here, it's probably looking like Logan's going back home to America. He's got a long road to recovery ahead of him, and the policy at this point in time is if you are out of action for 60 days, you're sent back home to America, okay? Fast forward to day 59. Logan is still in the hospital, and he receives orders to report back to South Korea.
Fuck me, right?
So he shows back up to Busan in October of 1950 to his same unit, the Wolfhounds, the 27th Regiment of the 25th Infantry Division. He is not given command of his old platoon. Instead, he is promoted to major and made the Battalion Plans and Training Officer. Okay, a lot has changed in the Korean War since he's been gone for 2 months. Basically, when he left, they were pushed all the way down to the southern tip of the peninsula at the Busan perimeter. Since then, they've made the amphibious landing at Incheon behind enemy lines, and then UN forces and American forces have managed to push basically all the way back up to the 38th parallel.
What a difference a day makes, never mind 2 months. I can't believe that much can change in 2 months.
And this is right around the time where the goalposts get shifted from we're gonna fight to preserve South Korea to we're gonna try to take all of North Korea as well and just end the problem out of the gate. So basically, as soon as he gets back, it's basically like, hey, here, you're promoted, we're charging into North Korea. From here, they rapidly advance up the peninsula, and it's basically cleanup and guerrilla warfare. He actually writes in his memoirs how much nicer it is fighting in Korea than the Pacific. He's like, the weather's way better, they're not hiding in bushes, there's not much stuff for them to hide behind, they're just kind of like out in the open. When he was later interviewed about it, he said, and I quote, "The commies aren't nearly as good as the Japanese at guerrilla warfare fighting. They make their strikes, then they stand around and wait to get cut down." Within like a month, they've traveled all the way up to the peninsula, and him and the rest of his guys and the rest of the US forces in general are all at the Yalu River, basically the Chinese border. Okay, we all know what happens next. China gets involved. They attack with hundreds of thousands of men, catching us off guard, and then push the UN and American forces back down the peninsula. Logan's unit is ordered to basically go down to Seoul and then on to Suwon, and they basically fight a tactical retreat all the way down the peninsula. They fight, then they retreat a little bit, they fight some more, retreat a little bit, fight some more, retreat a little bit, all the way down to Seoul and Suwon. The Chinese forces chase them all the way down the peninsula to Suwon, and outside of Suwon on February 7th, one of the platoons gets pinned down by an enemy stronghold up on a hill. And the commander of this company is this crazy guy by the name of Louis Millet, a World War II veteran that had already led a bayonet charge previously because he heard a rumor that the communists were talking shit that Americans were scared to fight with bayonets. So
why does that name sound familiar?
Louis Millet orders the tanks off the road so they don't get hit with anti-tank fire, then grabs another platoon, joins it together with his platoon, and then proceeds to bayonet charge an enemy stronghold uphill into enemy machine gun fire and grenades. And Logan Weston, remember, he's like the big picture guy. He's in charge of basically all the platoons and their bigger movements on the battlefield, and he's watching this unfold, and it becomes apparent to him that this bayonet charge is going very well because they make it to the top of the hill and start killing the enemies in their trenches. So Logan takes command of the tanks that have pulled off the road and orders them around the crest of the hill because he realizes the enemy's going to be forced to retreat. Louis Millet and his platoon kill over 100 guys, 30 of which with bayonet. The rest are forced to retreat down the hill and then run into tank fire directed by Logan. Okay, pause the story. Sidebar. All right, I've already done an entire video on Louis Millet. Awesome story. This dude's a tremendous badass. He winds up earning the Medal of Honor for this action. But when I was doing the research for this video, when I read that he had oversaw Louis Millet's bayonet charge, which is like extremely famous in military history, I threw the book down and I was like, there's no fucking way this guy has done this much shit. Nobody is this big of a main character. It's not possible. Okay, and it's not that I don't want to believe him, but extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and it's just he's done so much shit, it's starting to seem impossible. And that's by my standards, and my standards on what's impossible are well above the average person. So
yeah, there is like this entire encyclopedia of achievements at this point. This is a very long video full of a lot of fast-paced talking information. It's a bloody legend.
Dig into it thinking there's no fucking way, but it's okay. We can double check this super easy. So I pull up all my notes from my Louis Millet video years ago. Easiest thing I could look at. What unit was he in? Would they have been even in the same area at the same time? Sure enough, right there in my notes, Louis Millet, leader of the Wolfhounds, 25th Infantry Division, 27th Regiment, Easy Company. What did I say earlier?
There's no way.
Fuck me, right?
So he shows back up to Musan in October of 1950 to his same unit, the Wolfhounds, the 27th Regiment of the 25th Infantry Division. Hey, I don't understand. I don't understand how one dude does this much shit. He was at Guadalcanal. Granted, he wasn't there for the main fighting, but still, he was at Guadalcanal. He was at New Georgia. He became one of Merrill's marauders. He arguably saved the entire Korean War by preserving the Pusan perimeter. He then is at the Yalu River when the Chinese attack, and then he just super casually oversees the last bayonet charge in American history. Oh, but don't worry, it gets even crazier because you want to know how his 1 week little excursion ends? Oh, he gets hit with enemy sniper fire in the chest and the bullet gets stopped by the Bible in his breast pocket, and 2 days later he gets orders to rotate back home.
Wow. Oh my gosh. The bullet was stopped by the Bible. So many signs. It's meant to be.
If it's not divine intervention, right? I don't know what it is. It's statistically not possible. The man is the main character. I don't know what else to say.
I'd agree.
So from there, Logan Weston goes back home to America, goes on leave for a little while. Then he gets orders to report to Fort Benning, doing some officer stuff. He's in charge of like an infantry regiment, whatever. And while he's there, he's like, you know, I'm in my 40s, but I'm sick of walking everywhere all the time. I want to become a paratrooper. So he goes, gets his jump wings, becomes airborne in his 40s. Okay, I need you to appreciate how truly insane this is. This man is 40 years old, and when you jump out of a plane for the Army on a static line jump, you're hitting the ground at like 18 miles an hour, okay? Ooh. Airborne troops end up literally getting 1 to 2 inches shorter from the compression of their spine and hips over doing jumps, and he's doing this shit at 40.
It's got to be true because Nick said it. You get 1 or 2 inches shorter because of the compression of your spine. And he's doing this at 40, which 40 is not old, guys. But, you know, when we're talking about this kind of training and, you know, all of this, the impact on your spine. Oh my gosh. He's a machine.
32, and when
Weston
I
is
watch
a
my
machine.
3-year-old jump off the couch in my living room, I'm like, ugh, that seems like risky behavior. And he's out here jumping out of fucking planes. He finishes up his rotation at Fort Benning, then he gets sent to the Pentagon doing like high-level officer shit, you know, admin stuff, policy, training tactics, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah,
Hates it the entire time. While he's there, he hits 20 years in service, and they're like, hey, you can either retire or take a new assignment. He's like, I'll take a new assignment. So he goes and becomes a battle group commander overseeing 3,000 men at the 82nd Airborne Division. He's there for 4 months, and they're like, hey, did you want to become a Green Beret at the age of 46? And he's like, sure, why not? Which he manages to accomplish because obviously at this point, so he becomes a Green Beret. Then he gets put in charge of teaching all the other Green Berets anti-guerrilla counterinsurgency tactics. Then the Vietnam War pops off. He gets sent overseas for a year or two, and I quote, train Laotian fighters. Right. You know, because Laos and Cambodia definitely aren't the two neutral nations bordering Vietnam that Mac V. Sog was waging a shadow war in under the guise of training local militants.
The monkey. I was going to say, but we're not allowed to acknowledge that, or weren't they allowed to acknowledge that? They were there, but they weren't there. Was it one of those?
He finishes up his 9 months of being a training director, and then he has the option of like, okay, you can go back home now, or you can extend for 36 months and bring your family over here. He chooses to extend for 36 more months and bring his family over. Now,
oh, take a break, Logan. You've earned it. More than earned it.
Put yourself in his shoes. What do you do when you're bringing your family away from America over to Southeast Asia during the Vietnam War so you can train the locals? You got to make it up to him somehow, right? I mean, what do you do? What do you do with the kid? You buy him a dog, you buy him a pony. Well, you're in Asia now, so you buy your kids a pet monkey and you name it Spunky. Spunky the monkey, because
Spunky the monkey just sounds wrong. I mean, if someone offered me a pet monkey, I would think it was adorable at first. I'd definitely say yes. But when in Asia, get a pet monkey, sure.
because that's the one thing this story was missing, apparently. Okay, I don't even know what's happening anymore. This story started in 1914 in a cabin in the woods in Pennsylvania, and now we're in Southeast Asia buying monkeys. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Anyways, the family's living there for a while Dad's doing whatever Dad's doing.
Can't take no pictures lying down there, Sonny.
Eventually, one of his kids winds up getting really sick. They can't get him the level of care that they need, so they fly him back home to Texas to Fort Sam Houston, one of the biggest medical systems in the U.S. military. He comes with, that's where he gets stationed, gets new orders, starts working there, while his kid gets treatment. Luckily, his daughter Sherry winds up recovering. He continues to work at Fort Sam Houston for the rest of his career when he retired in 1968 after 28 years in service. After that, he goes on to become the coordinator of campus religious life at Texas A&M for 13 years before retiring from that job and retiring as a whole, and would eventually live happily ever after, passing away at the age of 89. And that is the story of Logan Weston, aka the Fighting Preacher. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch, maybe drink some Echelon. Links for that's over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
Quack bang out. We got a quote from Logan.
This might be the craziest story I've ever done. It just keeps going and going and going. Like, the dude did so much stuff.
So much. Oh, come on. We've got to have a little interview. A piece of a cheeky interview. No! Oh, it's the end. We don't get one. Oh. I was thinking because obviously Logan Weston's lived. And, you know, he died, passed away peacefully at an older age. I was hoping we were going to get just a snippet of a little interview with him. Oh, I'll have to go and look for one. That story, just like Nick said, just carried on going. And there's so much information that Nick was giving us there. So much. That's like just reeling off an encyclopedia of all of these achievements, all of these things that he's done over the years. absolutely amazing. My head is still kind of spinning with all of this information. And if you are still here at this point in the video, guys, it's been quite a long video. Thank you for watching along with me. Oh my gosh. And thank you, Lopez, for requesting this video. What an awesome individual. Oh my gosh. And you know what? It's so lovely to hear that they had a happy ending and his daughter was okay as well. I was a bit concerned when they mentioned that she had to go back over to Texas, but all was okay. So a very deserved happy ending there, which is lovely to hear. I do like when they have a happy ending. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching along with me. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.